The great chamber of Zenith Prime Station floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of metal and glass that had witnessed 1,000 diplomatic meetings. Today the air inside felt different, heavy, dangerous. Representatives from 43 species sat in their designated sections, each cluster of seats designed for their specific biology. The avian delegates perched on high branches. The aquatic species floated in tanks of specialized fluid. The humanoids sat in conventional chairs, though their sizes varied wildly. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the human podium, a small figure compared to most others in the room. She was 53 years old with gray streaking through her black hair. She had served Earth at the Galactic Council for 3 years now. 3 years of being ignored, dismissed, and occasionally mocked. She had learned to expect it. The Corinthian advance must be stopped. Chen said, her voice carrying through the translation devices that allowed all species to understand each other. They have taken 12 systems in 3 months. If we do not act together, they will not stop until they control half the galaxy. A sound like grinding stones echoed through the chamber. It was laughter. The Corinthian ambassador, a massive reptilian creature named KRYX, rose from his seat. His scales were a deep red, almost black, and his eyes glowed with an inner fire that spoke of biological engineering far beyond human capability. The human speaks of stopping us. KRYX said, his voice rumbling like an earthquake. How amusing. Tell me, Ambassador Chen, how many warships does Earth possess? 50? 100 perhaps. Chen kept her face neutral. Our military strength is sufficient for our needs. We have scanned your vessels. KRYX continued, addressing the entire chamber now. Primitive destroyers, outdated cruisers. Your largest ship is barely 3 kilometers long. My personal yacht is larger. More laughter echoed around the room, though some delegates remained silent, watching carefully. The Skyreach Confederation's lead delegate, a tall avian creature named Talric with golden feathers and a sharp beak, spoke next. His wings rustled with barely concealed contempt. The Corinthian speaks truth. Humanity has been part of this council for 15 years, yet their contribution to mutual defense remains negligible. Perhaps it is time we discussed whether species unable to defend themselves deserve a voice in military matters. Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she maintained her composure. This was not new. Earth had joined the Galactic Council with hope and enthusiasm, believing they would find allies and friends among the stars. Instead, they found something that reminded her of high school cafeterias and corporate boardrooms. Power mattered. Strength mattered. Everything else was just noise. We propose a joint defense force. Chen said, pulling up a holographic display. Combined fleets stationed at strategic points, shared intelligence networks, economic sanctions against the Corinthian Dominion until they withdraw from occupied territories. A delegate from the Depths Collective, an aquatic species that communicated through color changes on their translucent skin, flickered a pattern that the translator rendered as dismissive amusement. And who would command this joint force? Surely not the species whose most advanced weapon is a missile that still uses chemical propulsion. That was not entirely accurate, but Chen did not correct them. Let them think what they wanted to think. KRYX stepped forward, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. He was enormous, standing nearly 4 m tall. I grow tired of this discussion. The Corinthian Dominion hereby demands the immediate surrender of 3 border systems, Alios 7, New Terra, and Sanctuary Station. These systems will become Corinthian territory within 1 standard week. Any resistance will be met with total military response. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, creating a cacophony that the translation system struggled to process. Chen noticed something though. Amid the outrage and the protests, no one was offering to fight. The Lumina hierarchy, the oldest and most powerful species in the council, sat in silence. Their crystalline forms reflected the light in patterns that gave away nothing. Talric of the Skyreach Confederation spoke again once the noise died down. Perhaps we should discuss the terms of the Corinthian proposal. Surely there is room for negotiation. Chen felt something cold settle in her stomach. They were going to cave. All of them. 43 species. Thousands of years of combined civilization, and they were going to let the Corinthians take whatever they wanted because no one had the spine to stand up to them. She thought about the three systems KRYX had named. New Terra had been humanity's first successful colony outside the Sol system. 8 million people lived there. Sanctuary Station was a joint human-alien research facility where scientists from 12 species worked together. Alios 7 was smaller, only a few 100,000 inhabitants, but it was home. And if we refuse? Chen asked quietly. KRYX turned his burning gaze on her. Then we will take them by force. And when we are done, we will take 10 more. The weak have no place in this galaxy, human. Your species learned to travel between stars barely a century ago. You are children playing at being adults. When the adults speak, children should listen. Chen closed her eyes for a moment. In her mind, she saw the message she had received 3 days ago. It had been encrypted with codes that even Council intelligence could not break. It was from Earth, from the Security Council itself. One word, recalled. She opened her eyes and began gathering her materials. The other delegates watched in confusion as she deactivated her holographic displays and picked up her datapad. Ambassador Chen. Talric asked. Where are you going? We have not finished discussing the Corinthian proposal. There is nothing to discuss. Chen said. I am being recalled to Earth effective immediately. Recalled? The Depth's collective delegate flickered in confusion. But we have not reached a decision. Reach whatever decision you like. Chen said. She was surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Inside, her heart was racing. Earth will respond in its own way. She walked toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear whispers spreading through the chamber. The human was running away. The human was abandoning the council. Earth was too frightened to stand against the Corinthians. Let them think that, Chen thought. Let them all think that. KRYX's voice boomed out behind her. The humans show their true nature. Cowards who flee when challenged. This is why weak species do not deserve power. Chen did not turn around. She kept walking until she reached her ship, a small diplomatic shuttle that looked like a child's toy compared to the massive vessels in the docking bay. Her pilot, a young man named Marcus, looked up in surprise as she entered. Ambassador, we are not scheduled to depart for another 6 hours. Change of plans. Chen said, strapping into her seat. We leave now. Maximum speed to Earth. Is something wrong? Chen looked out the viewport at Zenith Prime Station, gleaming in the light of a distant star. Somewhere inside, 43 species were trying to decide how to surrender with dignity. No, she said. Something is finally right. The shuttle detached from the station and accelerated away. Behind them, the council continued its debate. None of them noticed the readings that began appearing on long-range sensors throughout the station, subtle at first, easy to dismiss as background radiation or instrument errors, but in the Sol system, something massive was moving. Something that had been hidden in the shadow of Mars for over a decade, waiting, building, preparing. The shipyards on the far side of humanity's red planet had been the most expensive project in human history. They had required the combined resources of every nation on Earth. They had demanded sacrifices, resources that could have gone to hospitals or schools or infrastructure had instead gone into metal and weapons and technology that the galaxy had never seen. Humanity had learned something in their first year with the Galactic Council. They had learned that respect was not given freely. It had to be earned or taken. So they had taken a different approach. They had kept their best ships hidden. They had allowed the galaxy to scan their outdated vessels and draw the obvious conclusions. They had played the role of the weak primitive species while their scientists worked in secret and their engineers built something impossible. The UNSC Indomitable hung in space above Mars, invisible to conventional sensors thanks to stealth technology that humanity had developed by studying wreckage from an ancient alien vessel found in their own system 2 centuries ago. The ship was 60 kilometers long, a city in space bristling with weapons that could glass planets or precision strike individual targets from 100,000 kilometers away. Captain Sarah O'Connell stood on the bridge, watching her crew complete final preparations. She was 41 years old, tall and dark-skinned, with the kind of presence that made people stand straighter when she entered a room. She had been training for this moment for 8 years, ever since she had been selected to command humanity's first supercarrier. All systems green, her executive officer reported. Fighter wings ready for deployment. All crew at battle stations. Communications? O'Connell asked. Encrypted link to Earth command confirmed. We are authorized to proceed. O'Connell nodded. She thought about Ambassador Chen heading home at maximum speed. She thought about the billions of humans living throughout the Sol system and beyond, most of whom had no idea what was about to happen. She thought about the Corinthians, so confident in their power. Helm, she said quietly, take us to the border zone. Maximum speed. Yes, Captain. The Indomitable's engines came to life. The ship that the galaxy did not know existed began to move. And throughout Council space, long-range sensors began to register something that should not be possible, something too large, too fast, too powerful. At Zenith Prime, a junior sensor technician from the Lumina hierarchy noticed the readings first. He ran them through analysis 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. Then he sent an emergency report to his superiors. The Galactic Council was still debating the Corinthian ultimatum when the report reached them. The chamber fell silent as delegates read the data. It was impossible. The humans did not have technology like this. The readings had to be wrong. Crix read the report and laughed. An obvious malfunction. Human ships do not generate power signatures like this. They barely generate power at all. But the Lumina hierarchy's chief delegate, an ancient being named Orothar whose crystalline body held memories stretching back thousands of years, did not laugh. He stared at the data with growing concern. He had seen readings like this before, long ago, in historical archives. The progenitors, the extinct race that had once ruled the galaxy, had built ships that generated similar signatures. Perhaps, Orothar said slowly, we have made an error in our assessment of humanity. Taurix's feathers ruffled in agitation. One anomalous reading proves nothing. Then we shall see, Orothar said. The Corinthian fleet is already moving toward the border systems. Whatever generated that reading is moving to intercept them. In a matter of days, we will know the truth. Crix's confident expression faltered for just a moment. Then he straightened to his full height. My fleet will crush whatever the humans send. This changes nothing. But as delegates began to depart Zenith Prime heading back to their home worlds, many of them felt a change in the air. Something fundamental had shifted. The game they had been playing, the careful dance of power and politics, had suddenly become unpredictable. Chen's shuttle raced through space at speeds that pushed the limits of human faster-than-light technology. She sat in the passenger compartment reviewing reports on her data pad. She allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humanity. They were about to learn that the most dangerous opponent was not the one who showed their strength immediately. It was the one who waited, watched, learned, and struck when the moment was right. The humans had been patient. They had endured mockery and dismissal and contempt. Now that patience was about to pay off. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Indomitable accelerated toward its destination. Its fighter bays held thousands of craft, each one more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen. Its weapon systems had been tested in secret, refined through simulation and careful experimentation. Its crew had trained for this mission for years. Earth's hidden supercarrier was no longer hidden, and the galaxy was about to freeze in shock at what humanity had built while they were not looking. The Corinthian warfleet moved through space like a swarm of metal predators, 847 vessels in total, ranging from small scout ships to massive dreadnoughts that stretched 5 kilometers from bow to stern. They traveled in a formation that had conquered a dozen systems, a pattern refined through centuries of warfare and written in the blood of countless enemies. Admiral Crick stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Burning Fang. He was even larger than his cousin, the Ambassador, nearly 5 m tall, with scars across his scales that told stories of personal combat. The Corinthians believed in leading from the front. Their admirals did not hide behind layers of subordinates. They fought. They killed. They conquered. Status report. Crix commanded, his voice like grinding boulders. His tactical officer, a younger Corinthian with bright red scales, bowed his head. All vessels report ready status. We will reach the first human colony, New Terra, in 14 standard hours. Our scouts report minimal defensive forces, 3 human destroyers and a handful of defense satellites. Crix's lips pulled back, revealing rows of sharp teeth. 3 destroyers. The humans truly are as weak as we believed. What of the anomalous sensor reading from the Sol system? Our long-range sensors detected a massive power signature, Admiral. However, it has since vanished. Our intelligence believes it was either a sensor malfunction or some kind of human industrial facility activating and then powering down. Fools and cowards, Crix said. They run and hide while we take what we wish. After we finish with their colonies, I will personally lead a strike force to their home world. Earth will burn as an example to all who question Corinthian supremacy. Around the bridge, his crew officers growled their approval. The Corinthians had been the dominant military power in their region of space for 500 years. They had faced the Galactic Council's displeasure before, had weathered economic sanctions and diplomatic condemnations. None of it mattered. Power was the only currency that truly mattered in the universe, and the Corinthians had power in abundance. Crix activated a galaxy-wide broadcast. He wanted everyone to hear this. Every species in the Council needed to understand what happened to those who stood in the Corinthian way. This is Admiral Crix of the Corinthian Dominion, he announced. We are en route to claim the territory promised to us. The humans have fled. Their council has abandoned them. In 14 hours, New Terra will become Corinthian property. Any who stand in our way will be destroyed. This is the fate of the weak. This is the reality of power. The age of Corinthian dominance has only just begun. He cut the transmission and settled back in his command throne, a massive chair decorated with the skulls of enemies he had personally defeated. Behind him, a viewport showed the streaking lights of faster-than-light travel. His fleet moved with precision, a demonstration of Corinthian military discipline. 14 hours. In 14 hours, the galaxy would see what happened to species who tried to negotiate instead of submit. The humans had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. But Admiral Crix did not know that 60 light-years away, something was also moving. Something that made his entire fleet look like a collection of toys. The UNSC Indomitable had reached the contested border zone and was now waiting, hanging in the darkness like a predator in tall grass. Captain Sarah O'Connell studied the tactical display that dominated the center of her bridge. The holographic projection showed the entire region with the Corinthian fleet represented as a cluster of red dots moving toward New Terra. Her own ship appeared as a single blue dot positioned directly in their path. Time to intercept, she asked. Her tactical officer, Commander James Park, checked his console. The Corinthian fleet will enter this sector in 3 hours and 22 minutes. They will detect us at their current sensor range approximately 30 seconds before visual confirmation. Good. I want them to see us. I want them to understand exactly what they are facing before we engage. Park nodded. He was a thin man with nervous energy, but his fingers moved across his controls with absolute precision. All weapon systems charged and ready. Fighter wings prepared for deployment. Point defense grid online. We can engage at your command, Captain. O'Connell walked around the tactical display studying it from every angle. She had run simulations of this battle hundreds of times over the past 3 years. She knew every possible outcome, every tactical decision the Corinthians might make. But simulations were not reality. Real people would die today. Corinthians, yes, but still living beings with families and histories and dreams. She thought about the message that had come from Earth Command. Show them who we are. Show them what we built, but offer them a chance to surrender first. A chance, one chance to walk away. After that, mercy was off the table. Communications, O'Connell said, prepare a message for broadcast on all frequencies. Audio and visual. Ready, Captain. O'Connell straightened her uniform. She had chosen to wear her formal dress uniform for this moment, dark blue with gold trim, medals earned through years of service displayed on her chest. She wanted the galaxy to see a professional military officer, not a barbarian or a desperate colonist. She wanted them to see what humanity had become. Begin recording. The communications officer nodded, and a light appeared on O'Connell's console indicating she was being transmitted. "This is Captain Sarah O'Connell of the United Nations Space Command vessel Indomitable," she said, her voice calm and clear. "We are currently positioned in the disputed border zone. Any military vessels entering this region will be considered hostile and will be engaged. To all Corinthian forces, you have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Turn your fleet around and return to your own territory. If you continue your advance, we will stop you by force. This is your only warning." She nodded and the transmission ended. Around the bridge, her crew worked in focused silence. These men and women had trained for this moment. They were the best humanity had to offer, selected from millions of applicants trained in secret facilities throughout the Sol system. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "I am detecting a transmission from the Corinthian fleet. It is on all frequencies. Admiral Crix is responding. Put it on the main screen." The viewport shifted, showing Admiral Crix on his bridge. He looked even more massive on screen, his scales gleaming under the lights of his command center. Behind him, Okonkwo could see his crew, all Corinthian warriors, all watching with barely concealed bloodlust. "Human Captain," Crixus said, and his voice carried the weight of someone who expected instant obedience. "You speak of stopping us with force. You command one ship. I command 847. Your vessel, however large, cannot stand against the might of the Corinthian dominion. I will give you a chance to flee. Turn away now, and I will allow you to run home to your primitive world. Stay, and I will add your skull to my collection." Behind Crixus, his crew growled and roared their approval. The Corinthian admiral smiled, showing all his teeth. Okonkwo looked at the image for a long moment. Then she turned to her crew. "Helm, drop stealth systems. Let them see exactly what they are facing." "Yes, Captain." Throughout the Indomitable, systems shifted. The stealth technology that had kept the massive ship hidden from sensors disengaged. Suddenly, every ship within 50 light-years could see the Supercarrier in perfect detail. On the Corinthian flagship, alarms began screaming. The tactical officer stared at his display in disbelief. "Admiral, sensor contact. Massive signature detected directly in our path." Crixus spun to face his displays. What he saw made him pause for the first time in his military career. The ship that appeared on his sensors was impossible. No species in the galaxy built vessels that large. The power readings alone exceeded anything in the Corinthian database. "What is that?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral. Sensors indicate the vessel is 60 kilometers in length, mass equivalent to a small moon. Power generation exceeds our entire fleet combined. We are detecting thousands of smaller craft inside the vessel, likely fighters or bombers. 60 kilometers. The Burning Fang, Crixus Pride and flagship, was 5 kilometers long. This human ship was 12 times larger, and the power reading suggested it had the weapons to match. Crixus stared at the data, his mind racing. This was not possible. The humans were weak. Their ships were outdated. Their technology was primitive. Every intelligence report, every scan, every observation over 15 years had confirmed this. Unless they had been lying. Unless everything humanity had shown the galaxy had been carefully crafted misdirection. Unless they had been hiding their true capabilities the entire time. "Admiral," his tactical officer asked. "What are your orders?" Crixus' claws dug into his command throne. Pride warred with tactical sense. The smart decision was to withdraw, to gather more intelligence, to return with a force specifically designed to counter this new threat. But the smart decision would look like cowardice. The entire galaxy was watching. If he turned away now, the Corinthian reputation for invincibility would be shattered. "We advance," Crixus said. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare to engage." We will show these humans that size is not everything. We will show them the fury of the Corinthian dominion. His crew roared their approval. 847 ships adjusted their course, forming attack patterns that had broken the defenses of 100 worlds. They accelerated toward the Indomitable. Weapons charging, shields powered to maximum. On the human supercarrier, alarms chimed softly. Corinthian fleet is advancing, Park reported. They have adopted offensive formation. All weapon systems are charging. They intend to engage. Okonkwo felt a strange calm settle over her. The moment had arrived. Years of preparation, billions of credits, thousands of people working in secret, all leading to this. Launch all fighters, she commanded. Authorization code Okonkwo Alpha 77. Weapons free. Show them what humanity can do. Throughout the Indomitable, massive bay doors opened. Fighter craft began streaming out, thousands of them, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. They did not look like the clumsy chemical propulsion vessels the galaxy had seen from Earth. These fighters moved with impossible grace, using gravitational manipulation technology that allowed them to ignore the normal rules of inertia and momentum. Commander Yuki Tanaka led the first fighter wing. She sat in her cockpit, watching her display fill with targets. 847 enemy ships. It should have been terrifying. Instead, she felt only focus. All wings, this is Valkyrie lead, she transmitted. Stay tight. Remember your training. Today we show the galaxy what Earth's children can do. Today we make them understand that humanity is not prey. We are the storm. Her fighter accelerated forward, and behind her, thousands of others followed. They moved in perfect formation, each pilot linked through quantum communication systems that allowed them to coordinate with zero lag. The galaxy had never seen humans fight before. Not really. Not like this. The Corinthian fleet opened fire first. Thousands of missiles and energy weapons reached out across the darkness of space, seeking human targets. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. The human fighters did not scatter. They did not panic. They moved as one, executing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Gravitational fields twisted around each fighter, allowing them to change direction without the normal constraints of physics. They danced through the incoming fire like leaves in a storm, and where the Corinthians expected easy targets, they found ghosts. Tanaka's finger pressed down on her firing control. Her fighters' weapons, mass accelerator cannons that fired projectiles at 0.4 light speed, unleashed hell. At that velocity, even a small projectile carried enough kinetic energy to punch through shields designed to stop energy weapons. Her target, a Corinthian destroyer, simply ceased to exist as rounds tore through it from bow to stern. Target down, she reported calmly, already acquiring her next enemy. Valkyrie 2, take the cruiser at Mark 37. Copy that, lead. The battle unfolded with brutal efficiency. The Corinthian fleet, for all its size and power, had been designed to fight enemies who followed the normal rules of space combat. Humanity's fighters did not follow those rules. They had been built using technology that the galaxy either did not understand or did not know existed. On the Burning Fangs Bridge, Admiral Crixus watched in growing horror as his fleet began to die. Ships that had survived 100 battles were being picked apart by fighters that moved like nothing he had ever seen. His weapons officers fired frantically, but hitting the human craft was nearly impossible. They moved too fast, changed direction too quickly. Focus fire on the carrier, Crixus commanded. If we destroy their command ship, the fighters will scatter. His fleet adjusted, turning massive weapons toward the Indomitable itself. Energy beams that could melt mountains lanced across space. Missiles with enough explosive power to crack continents raced toward the human supercarrier. Captain Okonkwo watched the incoming fire with calm eyes. Point defense, she said quietly. Engage. The Indomitable's point defense system activated. Thousands of automated weapons tracked the incoming projectiles with computer precision. Laser batteries, smaller mass accelerators, and defensive missiles created a wall of destruction around the supercarrier. Every single incoming weapon was destroyed before it could reach the hull. Not one shot touched the Indomitable. Their shields, the Corinthian tactical officer said, his voice shaking. How are their shields so strong? Those are not shields, Crixus said slowly, understanding dawning. That is point defense. They are shooting down everything we fire. It was impossible. Point defense systems could not be that accurate, that fast, that comprehensive. Except, apparently, they could be. Humanity had spent 15 years watching Galactic Council technology, studying it, understanding its weaknesses. Then they had built something better. The Indomitable's main weapons had not yet fired. Okonkwo had wanted to give the Corinthians a chance. Had wanted to demonstrate that surrender was possible. But minutes passed, and the enemy fleet continued its attack. Pride, she thought. Pride would kill them all. Main batteries, she commanded. Fire at will. The Indomitable's main weapons were not like anything the galaxy had seen in living memory. Most species used energy weapons, beams of concentrated power that could burn through armor, but were limited by heat dissipation and power requirements. The Corinthians favored these weapons, having perfected them over centuries of warfare. Humanity had studied those weapons and concluded they were inefficient. Energy could be dispersed, absorbed, reflected. Shields could stop it. So, Earth's engineers had gone a different direction. They had built weapons based on a principle as old as human warfare. Throw something heavy very fast. The main batteries of the Indomitable were electromagnetic mass accelerators, railguns on a scale that defied belief. Each weapon was 3 kilometers long, running through the Supercarrier structure like a spine. They fired projectiles the size of school buses at velocities approaching half the speed of light. When Captain Okonkwo gave the order to fire, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The first salvo left the Indomitable in silence. There was no sound in space, no dramatic explosions or roaring engines, just metal moving at impossible speeds, carrying more kinetic energy than most species used to power entire cities. The projectiles covered the distance to the Corinthian fleet in seconds. Admiral Crixus did not even have time to order evasive maneuvers. His sensors detected the incoming fire, calculated trajectories, and then the first rounds hit. A Corinthian dreadnought, 4 kilometers long and protected by shields that could withstand the firepower of a dozen conventional warships, simply disintegrated. The projectile did not punch through it. It did not explode against the hull. It hit with such force that the entire ship was reduced to its component atoms, scattered across space in an expanding cloud of vaporized metal and organic matter. Then the second projectile hit. And the third. And the fourth. In the span of 10 seconds, 37 Corinthian vessels ceased to exist. Not damaged, not disabled, simply gone. Erased from the universe as if they had never been. On the burning Fang, alarms screamed so loudly that several crew members' ears began bleeding. The tactical officer stared at his display in absolute horror. Admiral, direct hits on multiple vessels. The Crimson Talon is gone. The Death Shadow is gone. The I can see it, Crix roared. He watched his fleet, his invincible armada that had conquered 12 systems being torn apart like paper in a storm. These were not weapons. This was devastation on a scale he had never imagined possible. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Scatter formation. Do not give them group targets. But scattering was exactly what the human fighter wings had been waiting for. Commander Tanaka saw the Corinthian formation break apart and smiled grimly inside her helmet. All wings, they are breaking cohesion. Split into hunter groups. Find the vulnerable targets. The human fighters, already dancing through space with impossible grace, divided into smaller teams. Each group selected a Corinthian vessel and attacked with surgical precision. The enemy ships, separated from mutual support, found themselves surrounded by opponents they could barely track, let alone hit. Tanaka selected her target personally. A Corinthian heavy cruiser, 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. It was firing wildly in all directions, trying to hit the human fighters that weaved around it like birds around a confused bear. Valkyrie 2 and 3, with me. We hit the engines first, then the command section. Roger that. Lead. Her fighter dove toward the cruiser, gravitational fields bending space around her craft to allow turns that would have killed a pilot under conventional physics. The cruiser's point defense fired, but it was designed to stop missiles and energy weapons, not fighters moving in three-dimensional patterns that defied prediction algorithms. Tanaka fired. Her mass accelerator rounds, smaller than the Indomitables, but still traveling at tremendous velocity, punched through the cruiser's engine section. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull as fuel lines ruptured and containment fields failed. The great ship lurched, losing power, systems failing one after another. Engines disabled, Tanaka reported. Moving to command section. She pulled her fighter up and over the dying cruiser, her wingmen following in perfect formation. Another burst of fire, and the command section exploded outward, venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The cruiser went dark, a dead hulk tumbling through the void. Target neutralized. Acquiring next target. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Corinthian ships, each one powerful enough to threaten a planet, were being systematically destroyed or disabled by human fighters they could barely see, let alone fight. Admiral Crix watched his fleet die and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Pure animal fear that made his combat instincts scream at him to flee, to survive, to abandon pride and power and simply live. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. His tactical officer, his voice shaking, checked the displays. 412 destroyed or disabled, Admiral. The fleet is broken. 412 ships, half his armada, gone in 17 minutes. 17 minutes. He had fought battles that lasted weeks. He had sieges that took months. And in 17 minutes, the humans had accomplished what no enemy had managed in 500 years of Corinthian military history. They had broken the unbreakable. "Retreat," Crix said. The word tasting like ash in his mouth. "All ships, full retreat. Maximum speed. Get us out of this sector." His crew stared at him. A Corinthian admiral had not ordered a retreat in living memory. They fought to the death. They conquered or they died. There was no third option. "Did you not hear me?" Crix roared. "I said retreat. Move or I will space every one of you myself." That got them moving. The surviving Corinthian ships turned away from the battle, engines burning at maximum power. They scattered in every direction, abandoning formation, abandoning wounded vessels, abandoning everything in their desperate flight. On the Indomitable, Commander Park watched the enemy fleet break apart. "Captain, the Corinthians are retreating. Should we pursue?" Okonkwo considered for a moment. She could destroy the rest of them. Every instinct of warfare said to pursue a broken enemy, to eliminate the threat completely. But that was not her mission. Her mission was to stop the invasion and demonstrate Earth's capabilities. Both objectives had been achieved. "Negative," she said. "All fighters, break off attack. Do not pursue fleeing vessels. Let them run." Tanaka received the order and felt a mix of relief and disappointment. Part of her wanted to hunt down every last Corinthian ship, but she understood the larger picture. Let them run. Let them spread the word of what happened here. "All wings, this is Valkyrie lead. Break off attack and return to the Indomitable. Good work today, people. You did humanity proud." The fighters began returning to the Supercarrier. Their graceful movements now almost casual after the intensity of battle. Behind them, the Corinthian fleet fled in disarray, and floating in space were the wrecks of over 400 warships. But one Corinthian vessel did not flee. Admiral Crix, watching his fleet scatter, felt rage replace his fear. He could not run. If he ran, he would be dishonored, removed from command, possibly executed for cowardice. The Corinthians did not tolerate failure, especially not from their leaders. "Helm," he said quietly. "Set course for the human carrier. Maximum speed. All power to engines and forward shields." His bridge crew turned to stare at him. "Admiral?" his tactical officer asked carefully. "That would be a suicide run." "Yes," Crix agreed. "It would. But I will not live with the shame of this defeat. If I must die, I will die taking their command ship with me. The humans will learn that killing a Corinthian admiral comes at a price. The burning fang turned away from its fleeing fleet and accelerated toward the Indomitable. Every bit of power the great ship possessed went into its engines and forward shields. It was a tactic of last resort, a kamikaze run that had worked exactly twice in Corinthian history, both times against distracted or wounded enemies. On the Indomitable's bridge, alarms chimed. "Captain," Park said. "One enemy vessel is not retreating. The flagship is accelerating directly toward us. It appears to be a ramming attack." Okonkwo studied the tactical display. Admiral Crix's flagship was moving fast, shields at maximum. If it hit the Indomitable, the explosion would likely damage both vessels severely. Perhaps Crix hoped to the Supercarrier, to prove that humanity was not invincible. "Fighter intercept?" Park asked. Okonkwo shook her head. "No. One fighter will handle this." She opened a direct communication channel. "Valkyrie lead, this is Captain Okonkwo." On the crystalline world of Lumina Prime, home to the ancient Lumina hierarchy, the Council of Elders gathered in their great hall. The building was 10,000 years old, carved from a single massive crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns. The Elders themselves were even older, their crystalline bodies containing memories passed down through generations. Orathar, eldest of the Elders, watched the battle recording for the 7th time. Each viewing revealed something new, some detail that deepened his concern. The human fighters moved using gravitational manipulation technology, the kind of technology that should not exist, that required an understanding of physics most species lacked. "They found a progenitor cache," another elder said, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. "There is no other explanation. The gravitational technology, the power generation systems, even the hull materials, all of it bears the signature of progenitor design." "But where?" a third elder asked. "We have searched for progenitor remnants for millennia. Every cache we found was stripped bare or destroyed. How did the humans, newcomers to the galaxy, find what we could not?" Orathar shifted and light scattered through his body in complex patterns. "Perhaps they did not need to search far. Perhaps the progenitors left something in the human system, something overlooked because we never thought to look at such an isolated, primitive location." The implications hung in the air. The progenitors had been the masters of the galaxy millions of years ago, before their sudden and mysterious extinction. Their technology was so advanced that even fragments of it could revolutionize entire civilizations, and apparently Earth had found enough progenitor remnants to build weapons that surpassed anything the current galaxy possessed. "Should we contact the humans?" an elder asked. "Perhaps they would share their discovery." "No," Orathar said firmly. "The humans clearly understand the value of secrets. They kept this hidden for 15 years while the galaxy dismissed them. They will not share freely, not now that they have proven their strength. We must be careful." The progenitors did not fall to external enemies. Something destroyed them from within, or something came that even they could not stop. By activating their technology, the humans may have attracted attention we do not want. On the avian world of Skyreach, Taurik stood before the High Perch, the ruling council of his species. His golden feathers were ruffled in distress, and his talons gripped the speaking platform so hard they left marks in the metal. "I was wrong," he said, the words bitter in his beak. "I dismissed the humans as primitive. I mocked their military capabilities in open council. I advocated that they should have no voice in defense matters. I was catastrophically wrong." The High Perch members rustled their feathers in agitation. The Skyreach Confederation prided itself on superior intelligence gathering and political maneuvering. They were supposed to know everything happening in the galaxy, yet humanity had built 7 supercarriers in secret, right under their metaphorical noses. "How did we miss this?" demanded the Perch Mother, eldest and wisest of their species. "Our intelligence network spans the galaxy. We have sources on every council world. How did the humans hide such a massive construction project?" Taurik had spent the last 6 hours reviewing every report his intelligence services had filed on humanity. The answer, when he found it, was humbling. They never tried to hide the construction itself. Our agents saw the shipyards on Mars. They reported heavy industrial activity throughout the Sol system. But we dismissed it as infrastructure development, colony ship construction, perhaps military vessels for system defense. We never imagined they were building something this advanced because we assumed they were incapable of it. We saw what we expected to see. The perch mother clicked her beak in displeasure. Confirmation bias, the oldest trap in intelligence work, and we fell into it. What are the humans doing now? They have issued demands to the Corinthian Dominion. Withdrawal from occupied territories, reparations, dismantling of military bases. They have also extended an invitation to the Council to discuss a new security framework. A framework they would dominate, another perch member said. They have just demonstrated overwhelming military superiority. Every species will flock to them for protection. Taurik nodded. Which is why I am proposing we send a diplomatic mission immediately. Not to threaten or demand, to apologize, to acknowledge our error, and to request alliance terms before other species fill all the available positions. The perch mother considered this. Pride suggested they should maintain distance, should not rush to embrace the species they had dismissed. But wisdom suggested that pride was exactly what had destroyed the Corinthian fleet. Approved. Take our finest diplomatic vessel and a full honor guard. Make the humans understand that we recognize their true worth. And Taurik, learn everything you can about their technology. Not to steal it, but to understand it. We need to know how far ahead of us they truly are. In the aquatic depths of Tidal World, the Depth Collective gathered in their great current chamber. They communicated through color changes and chemical signals, their translucent bodies pulsing with complex patterns as they discussed the new reality. The battle recordings were displayed on suspended screens, and the collective watched with fascination. They had dismissed human chemical propulsion technology as crude and inefficient. Now they understood that they had been shown exactly what the humans wanted them to see. One elder flashed a pattern of respect mixed with concern. The humans understand deception at a level we did not anticipate. They are not warriors by nature, based on our anthropological studies. Yet they have built weapons of tremendous power, and used them with precision and restraint. This suggests deep strategic thinking. Another collective member pulsed agreement. Notice they could have destroyed the entire Corinthian fleet, but allowed survivors to escape. They could have pursued and eliminated every enemy vessel. Instead, they demonstrated force and then offered terms. This is not the behavior of conquerors. This is the behavior of leaders who understand that today's enemy might become tomorrow's ally. Should we be concerned? The younger member asked, colors shifting with anxiety. If they have 7 supercarriers, they could potentially dominate all of Council space. The eldest member of the collective, whose body was so pale with age it was nearly invisible, pulsed a complex pattern that translated to wisdom born of long experience. Potentially, yes. But consider their actions carefully. They could have revealed their power years ago. They could have demanded council leadership. They could have conquered their neighbors and expanded their territory. Instead, they waited until the Corinthians threatened innocent colonies, then intervened to stop aggression. This suggests their goal is not conquest, but security. Such beings make better allies than enemies. Throughout Council space, similar conversations took place. Some species reacted with fear, seeing the rise of a new dominant power. Others saw opportunity, a chance to ally with a strong protector. Still others began reviewing their own intelligence failures, wondering what else they had missed about the galaxy around them. On Earth itself, in the underground command center beneath the Swiss Alps, the Security Council watched these reactions carefully. Admiral Richard Torres, commander of Earth Space Forces, stood before a holographic display showing the political landscape of the galaxy in real time. We have diplomatic requests from 17 species so far, he reported. The Skyreach Confederation is sending their top diplomat. The Depths Collective has transmitted an offer of technological exchange. 6 smaller species are requesting defense agreements. President Maria Santos leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled beneath her chin. She was 61 years old with grey hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had authorized the Indomitable's mission, knowing it would change everything. Now she had to manage the consequences. And the Lumina hierarchy, she asked. They have been silent, which concerns me more than the others, Torres admitted. The Lumina are the oldest species in the Council, possibly the oldest in the galaxy. Their technology rivals what we built using the progenitor cache. If anyone poses a potential threat to our security, it's them. Santos nodded. The progenitor cache. That was the secret behind humanity's sudden leap in capability. 237 years ago, a mining expedition in the Kuiper Belt had discovered something impossible. A derelict spacecraft buried in a comet, perfectly preserved by the cold and vacuum of space. The ship had been millions of years old, its builders long extinct. Earth's governments had kept the discovery absolutely secret. They had studied the technology carefully, reverse-engineered what they could, and built upon it. The gravitational manipulation systems that made human fighters impossible to hit, the power generation that allowed railguns to fire projectiles at relativistic speeds, the material science that let them build a 60-kilometer ship that wouldn't tear itself apart. All of it came from the progenitors, the mysterious race that had vanished from the galaxy long before humanity evolved. And if the Lumina knew about the progenitor connection, they would have questions, dangerous questions. What about the Corinthians? Santos asked. Have they responded to Captain Okonkwo's demands? Not officially, but our intelligence suggests their government is in chaos. Half their military leadership is demanding immediate retaliation. The other half is pointing out that they just lost half a fleet in 17 minutes, and that attacking humanity again would be suicide. The civilians are calling for the military leadership to be removed. It's a mess. Santos allowed herself a small smile. Good. Let them fracture. A divided Corinthian dominion is less likely to threaten anyone. What about our other carriers? The Defiant, Relentless, and Inviolable are on station protecting our major colonies. The Valiant is stationed at Earth itself. The Intrepid and Unconquerable remain hidden, ready to deploy if needed. 7 supercarriers. Humanity had bet everything on these 7 ships, had poured resources into them that could have been used for hospitals, schools, infrastructure, quality of life improvements for billions of people. It had been a massive gamble, one that required convincing every nation on Earth to cooperate, to keep secrets, to sacrifice for a potential threat that might never materialize. But the gamble had paid off. In one battle, humanity had gone from dismissed newcomer to galactic power. Schedule diplomatic meetings with everyone who requested them, Santos said. But space them out. I want time to assess each species carefully before we commit to anything. And get Ambassador Chen back here. She deserves to see the results of the plan she helped create. Ambassador Chen was indeed on her way back to Earth. Watching news reports in her shuttle's cabin, she saw herself being mocked at the Council, saw her recall being interpreted as cowardice. Then she saw the battle recordings, saw the Indomitable emerge from stealth, saw the Corinthian fleet broken and scattered. She had known. For 3 years, she had carried the secret of what humanity was building, had endured mockery and dismissal, knowing that one day the galaxy would understand. That day had arrived, and the satisfaction was profound. Her pilot, Marcus, knocked on her cabin door. Ambassador, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Put it through. President Santos appeared on her screen. Ambassador Chen, congratulations on an excellent performance. Your work at the Council gave us the time we needed to complete the preparations. Thank you, Madam President. Though I must admit, watching the galaxy's reaction is more satisfying than I expected. What are your orders? Rest for a few days, then prepare for the most important diplomatic mission of your career. We need to build a new order in this galaxy, one where aggression is deterred and peaceful species can thrive. You are going to help us create that order. Chen smiled. It would be my honor, Madam President. The transmission ended, and Chen looked out her viewport at the stars. Humanity had been alone for so long, just one species on one world, dreaming of what might exist beyond their solar system. Then they had joined the galactic community and found it was not what they had hoped. The galaxy was dangerous, divided, dominated by those willing to use force. So humanity had adapted. They had built weapons not for conquest, but for survival. They had played the long game while others focused on immediate gains. And now they had the opportunity to shape the future. But Chen knew, as did everyone in Earth's government, that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only revealed one card from their hand. The question was what other players would do with their hidden cards. The Lumina hierarchy had been suspiciously quiet. The Corinthians, even broken, were still dangerous. And there were dozens of other species, each with their own agendas, their own secrets, their own plans. The game had changed, but it was far from over. Humanity had announced itself as a major player. Now they had to prove they could maintain their position while building something better than the system they had found. Ambassador Chen closed her eyes and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but today Earth had shown the galaxy what humans could do when they set their minds to a task. They could endure. They could adapt. They could build the impossible. And they could make the galaxy pause and reconsider everything it thought it knew. 6 months after the Battle of Terminus Gate, the Galactic Council chamber looked different. The same massive ring station still floated between stars, but the arrangement of seats had changed. Where humanity's delegation had once sat in a small section near the back, dismissed as junior members with little voice, they now occupied one of 5 prominent positions at the center of the chamber. The council had reorganized itself around a new security council, with permanent seats granted to the 5 most militarily powerful species. The Lumina hierarchy held 1 seat, their ancient wisdom and advanced technology undeniable. The Skyreach Confederation held another, their intelligence networks and diplomatic reach securing their position. The Depths Collective, with their vast economic power and strategic resource control, held the 3rd. The Corinthian Dominion, surprisingly, held the 4th, though their power had been greatly diminished. And humanity held the 5th. Ambassador Chen sat in Earth's new seat, surrounded by advisors and military liaisons. She wore a formal suit in deep blue, Earth's color in council proceedings. Behind her, on screens visible to all delegates, footage played continuously showing human supercarriers on patrol, a reminder of the force that backed humanity's diplomatic positions. The current debate concerned the reformation of galactic security protocols. 43 species had opinions, and all of them were talking at once. Chen listened patiently, making notes, waiting for the right moment to speak. The Corinthian representative, no longer the arrogant Ambassador Kryks, but a smaller, younger official named Sarex, was arguing for partial relaxation of the restrictions placed on his species. The Corinthian people have complied with all demands, he said, his voice lacking the aggressive confidence of his predecessor. We have withdrawn from occupied territories. We have paid reparations. We have dismantled our forward bases. We ask only that the Council recognize our efforts and allow us to rebuild our economy. Several species voiced support, though just as many remained skeptical. The Corinthian military, once the terror of the galaxy, had indeed complied with every demand made by the human ultimatum. But trust, once broken, took time to rebuild. Tal Rek of the Skyreach Confederation spoke next, his golden feathers catching the light. The Corinthian compliance is noted and appreciated. However, we must ensure such aggression never happens again. I propose the formation of a galactic defense force, commanded jointly by the Security Council, with the power to intervene in conflicts before they escalate to full warfare. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A joint military force was unprecedented. It would require species to place their security in the hands of others, to trust that the force would be used fairly and not as a tool of oppression. Chen saw her moment and stood. The chamber fell silent. In 6 months, humanity had earned a reputation for speaking rarely but meaningfully. When the human ambassador stood, people listened. The Skyreach proposal has merit, Chen said, but it is incomplete. A joint military force without proper oversight could become exactly the kind of threat we seek to prevent. I propose a 3-tier system. First, a rapid response force for immediate threats commanded by rotating leadership from the Security Council. Second, a mediation corps for diplomatic resolution before military action becomes necessary. Third and most importantly, an independent oversight committee drawn from smaller species not on the Security Council with the power to review and question any military action. She paused, letting her words sink in. Power without accountability leads to tyranny. Strength without wisdom leads to destruction. Humanity learned these lessons the hard way in our own history. We do not want to repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale. The Lumina representative, Orathar, shifted in his crystalline seat. Light scattered through his body in patterns that suggested contemplation. The human proposal is wise. We support it. However, we have concerns about the technology being deployed by Earth's military forces. Specifically, the gravitational manipulation systems and the power generation capabilities demonstrated at Terminus Gate. Chen had been expecting this. The Lumina were no fools. They had studied the battle recordings and drawn the correct conclusions. The Council is concerned about our technology, Chen asked carefully. The Council is concerned about the origin of that technology, Orathar replied. We have reviewed historical records. The power signatures of human weapons match progenitor signatures from archived data. We believe Earth has discovered a progenitor cache. We wish to know what else was in that cache and what protocols Earth is following to prevent progenitor technology from falling into dangerous hands. The chamber erupted again. Every species knew about the progenitors. They were legend, myth, the ancient ones who had built wonders and then vanished mysteriously. If humanity had found progenitor technology, the implications were staggering. Chen waited for the noise to die down. She had discussed this moment with President Santos many times. They had known this question would come eventually. Now they had to decide how much truth to reveal. Earth did discover a derelict progenitor vessel 237 years ago, Chen said. It was found in the outer reaches of our solar system. We studied it carefully and reverse-engineered some of the technology. What we built was based on progenitor principles but is not purely progenitor technology. We combined their methods with our own innovations. And what else was in this vessel? Orathar asked. What other progenitor secrets does humanity possess? Chen met his crystalline gaze steadily. Navigation data suggesting the progenitors explored much of the galaxy, scientific records we are still working to translate, and warnings. Many warnings about something the progenitors called the others. We do not know what the others were, but the progenitors seemed to fear them greatly. That brought absolute silence to the chamber. The others. Even the name carried weight. A delegate from a smaller species, the insectoid Kitiri collective, spoke with a voice like clicking crystals. If the progenitors who built such wonders feared these others, should we not fear them as well? And if humanity has been using progenitor technology, might they have attracted the attention of whatever destroyed the progenitors? It was the question Chen had been dreading. The question Earth scientists had asked themselves countless times. Had they, in their effort to protect humanity, potentially endangered the entire galaxy? We do not know, Chen said honestly. The progenitor records suggest their civilization fell millions of years ago. Whatever destroyed them may be long gone or may have been a singular event rather than an ongoing threat. We have taken precautions. Our use of progenitor-derived technology has been carefully controlled. We have not activated systems we do not understand, and we have been monitoring the edges of known space for any anomalies. And have you detected anything? Orathar asked. Chen hesitated. This was the moment of truth. She could lie, could hide the concerning readings that Earth's long-range sensor networks had been detecting for the past 3 months, or she could tell the truth and face the consequences. Yes, she said. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring stations detected unusual energy signatures on the edge of explored space in a region we call the Dark Zone. The signatures do not match any known species technology. They appear and disappear randomly. We do not know what is causing them. The chamber exploded with questions and concerns. Species demanded to know why humanity had kept this secret. Others accused Earth of dooming the galaxy. Still others simply panicked, their representatives calling for emergency sessions and contingency plans. Chen remained standing, calm amid the chaos. Finally, Orathar's voice cut through the noise. Silence. The chamber fell quiet. The ancient Lumina had commanded respect for millennia. Even in the new order, his voice carried authority. What is done, Orathar said. Humanity found progenitor technology and used it. Any species in their position would have done the same. The question now is not one of blame but of response. If something is approaching from the dark zone, if the others or something similar poses a threat, we must prepare together. Ambassador Chen, what does Earth propose? Chen took a breath. This was the moment Earth's leadership had planned for. The opportunity to truly unify the galaxy against a common threat or to tear it apart in fear and recrimination. Earth proposes full transparency, she said. We will share all progenitor data with the Council. We will make our deep space monitoring network available to all member species. We will work together to understand the threat, if threat it is, and we will prepare to defend ourselves not as individual species but as a unified galactic civilization. She paused, then added, the progenitors were powerful beyond our imagining. They built technology we can barely comprehend even now, and something destroyed them. If we face the same threat, we cannot afford to be divided. We cannot afford to see each other as competitors or enemies. We must stand together or we will fall separately. The chamber was quiet. Chen's words resonated with a truth that every species understood. They had been playing games of power and politics while something unknown lurked at the edges of their civilization. Talrek spoke, his voice thoughtful. The human speaks wisdom. The Skyreach Confederation supports full cooperation and information sharing. We also propose immediate joint exploration missions to the Dark Zone. We must understand what we are facing. The Depths Collective agrees, said their representative. We will contribute resources and vessels to the exploration effort. One by one, species added their support. Even the Corinthian representative, Cyrix, pledged his species' remaining military strength to the common defense. The council that had been fractured and competitive just 6 months ago was coming together in the face of an unknown threat. But not everyone was pleased. Some delegates whispered about human manipulation, suggesting Earth had invented the threat to unite the galaxy under their leadership. Others worried that combining their forces would simply make them easier targets. Trust, Chen knew, would not come easily or quickly. The session concluded with the formation of joint exploration and defense initiatives. Earth agreed to send the Indomitable as part of a combined fleet that would investigate the Dark Zone. The Lumina would provide scanning technology. The Skyreach would contribute intelligence analysis. The Depths Collective would supply logistic support. Chen returned to her quarters aboard Zenith Prime Station, exhausted. Her assistant, a young diplomat named James, waited with reports and messages. 16 species have requested private meetings, James said. Most want assurances that Earth is telling the truth about the Dark Zone signals. 3 want to discuss defense agreements, and this one is marked urgent from Earth Command. Chen opened the urgent message. It was from Admiral Torres. The text was brief and concerning. New detection in Dark Zone. Larger signature than before. Appears to be approaching at sublight speeds. ETA to edge of Council space approximately 18 months. Recommend immediate escalation of defense preparations. Chen closed her eyes. 18 months. If something was truly coming, they had 18 months to prepare. 18 months to unite fractured species with millennia of conflicts and distrust. 18 months to build defenses against a threat they did not understand. She thought about the progenitors, their mighty civilization reduced to scattered derelicts and forgotten warnings. She thought about the 7 human supercarriers, powerful but potentially insignificant against whatever had destroyed beings who built wonders. She thought about billions of innocent beings throughout the galaxy, all of them unaware that their future might be measured in months rather than centuries. James, she said, opening her eyes, accept all meeting requests and send a message to Captain Okonkwo. Tell her the Indomitable may be needed again soon. On Earth, in the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, President Santos watched the same report Admiral Torres had sent to Ambassador Chen. Around her, military advisors and civilian leaders discussed options, plans, contingencies, but Santos was thinking about something deeper. Humanity had hidden its strength for 15 years, had played a long game while the galaxy dismissed them. The patience had paid off, had earned them power and respect. But now they faced something that did not care about political games or military might. If the progenitors, with all their advancement, had fallen, what chance did humanity have? We need to accelerate the construction timeline, she said, interrupting the discussion. 7 carriers are not enough. Not for this. We need 20. 50, we need every ship we can build. Madam President, an economic advisor protested, the cost would be enormous. We would have to divert resources from every sector of our economy. Then we divert them, Santos said firmly. What good is a strong economy if we are all dead? What good is quality of life if there is no life at all? We gambled everything on the supercarriers once and it worked. Now we gamble again, bigger stakes, higher risk, because if we lose this bet, there will be no second chance. She stood looking at the faces around her, faces of people who had helped guide humanity through its most challenging period, people who had kept secrets, made hard choices, sacrificed for the greater good. We showed the galaxy what humanity can do, Santos said. We showed them we could endure, adapt, and build the impossible. Now we need to do it again, but better, faster, bigger, because something is coming and when it arrives, I want humanity to be ready. I want us to stand at the front lines, not behind them. I want us to prove that the species who barely reached the stars a century ago can defend those stars against anything the universe throws at us. She looked at the star map displayed on the wall, showing the explored galaxy and the vast dark zone beyond. Somewhere in that darkness, something was moving, something that had perhaps destroyed the progenitors, something that would soon reach Council space. Get to work, Santos said quietly. We have 18 months to save the galaxy. Let us not waste a single day. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Sarah Okonkwo received Ambassador Chen's message. She read it twice, then looked at her tactical display. The supercarrier was currently on patrol near New Terra, the colony the Corinthians had threatened 6 months ago. The colonists had built a memorial to the battle, a sculpture visible from orbit showing human fighters in formation. Helm, Okonkwo said, plot a course to the Dark Zone. We need to see what we are up against. The Dark Zone, Captain? That is quite far from our patrol route. I know, but if something is coming, I want to look it in the eye before it reaches our home, and I want it to know that humans do not wait for threats to arrive. We go to meet them. Commander Park looked up from his console. Should we request additional support, Captain? Going into the Dark Zone with a single carrier, even one as powerful as the Indomitable, seems risky. Okonkwo considered this. Request the Defiant and Relentless to join us. 3 carriers should be sufficient for a reconnaissance mission, and send a message to Admiral Torres. Tell him we are conducting preliminary surveys of the Dark Zone ahead of the joint exploration mission. Better we know what is out there before we bring the entire Council fleet. Aye, Captain. The Indomitable changed course, its massive engines accelerating the supercarrier toward the unknown. Behind them, New Terra's colonists watched the ship depart, their protector moving toward a threat none of them fully understood. Some felt fear, others felt pride. Their species, the newcomers to the galaxy, were not hiding behind others. They were standing at the front. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. The joint defense initiatives moved forward with surprising speed. Species that had barely cooperated before now shared intelligence, coordinated patrols, and began joint training exercises. The threat of the unknown had accomplished what centuries of diplomacy could not. It had united them. But unity was fragile. In the Corinthian Dominion, military leaders debated their options. Some argued for full cooperation with the Council, seeing an opportunity to rebuild their reputation through shared defense. Others saw the chaos as an opportunity to rebuild their strength in secret, to prepare for the day when the current crisis passed and the old order of conquest could resume. Sarex, the new Corinthian ambassador, found himself caught between these factions. He was young by Corinthian standards, barely 200 years old, and he had inherited a diplomatic position in the worst possible circumstances. His species' reputation was in ruins, their military broken, their economy struggling under reparations. He sat in his office on the Corinthian capital world, reviewing reports from their intelligence services. Something in the reports troubled him, a pattern he could not quite identify. Ships going missing near the Dark Zone, not just Corinthian ships, but vessels from multiple species, cargo haulers, exploration craft, even a few military scouts. The official explanation was navigation errors or equipment failures. The dark zone was poorly mapped and many species avoided it due to unusual gravitational anomalies, but Sarex had a feeling there was more to it. The missing ships formed a pattern, a rough circle around a specific region of space. He pulled up a star chart and marked each disappearance. The pattern became clear. Something at the center of that circle was taking ships, not destroying them violently as the Corinthian military would have done. They simply vanished from sensors, their distress calls cut off mid-transmission. Sarex sent a secure message to Ambassador Chen. If humanity was leading the defense efforts, they needed to know about this. And despite his species' past aggression toward Earth, Chen had always treated him with professional respect. Perhaps she would listen. Chen received the message during a meeting with the Lumina delegation. She excused herself to review it privately, and as she read Sarex's findings, her concern grew. Missing ships, a pattern of disappearances. This was not just unusual energy signatures anymore. This was active threat assessment territory. She forwarded the information to Admiral Torres with a priority flag, then returned to her meeting. But her mind was elsewhere, thinking about Captain Okonkwo and the 3 supercarriers heading toward the dark zone. They were moving toward answers, yes, but they might also be moving toward danger that even their advanced technology could not overcome. 3 weeks after departing from New Terra, the Indomitable reached the edge of the dark zone. The region earned its name from the unusual density of dark matter that made it difficult to scan. Stars were sparse here, and the darkness between them seemed deeper, more absolute. Captain Okonkwo stood on her bridge, studying the sensor readings. The Defiant and Relentless had joined them 2 days ago, and now 3 supercarriers hung in formation at the threshold of the unknown. Behind them, the last outpost of Council space. Ahead, mystery. Sensor report, she commanded. The sensor officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, worked her console with practiced efficiency, detecting the same unusual energy signatures reported by long-range stations. They are stronger here, more frequent. Pattern suggests they originate from approximately 40 light-years into the dark zone. Also detecting gravitational anomalies consistent with massive objects, but unable to determine exact composition due to dark matter interference. Massive objects. Like planets. Stations. Unknown, Captain. The readings are unlike anything in our database. They could be natural phenomena or artificial constructs. We would need to get closer to determine specifics. Okonkwo made her decision. All ships advance into the dark zone, standard formation. Battle readiness, but weapons hold. We are here to observe, not to start a war with something we do not understand. The 3 supercarriers moved forward, penetrating the dark zone like needles pushing through fabric. The darkness seemed to swallow them, their running lights appearing dim against the absolute black of space. For 3 days, they traveled deeper. The energy signatures grew stronger, more distinct, and finally, 40 light-years from the edge of Council space, they found something. Captain, Kim said, her voice tight with tension, I am detecting multiple contacts. Very large contacts. They are in a spherical formation around a central point. Counting 17 distinct objects, each approximately 500 kilometers in diameter. 500 kilometers. The Indomitable was 60 kilometers long, and these objects were nearly 10 times larger. Okonkwo felt her pulse quicken, but kept her voice steady. Can you determine if they are ships or stations? Neither, Captain, or both. The structure is like organic. They appear to be living constructs, biological technology on a scale I have never seen. They are dormant currently, power signatures minimal, but they show signs of recent activity, and Captain, I am detecting debris fields between them. Wreckage from multiple species vessels, the missing ships. They had found the answer to Sarex's pattern. Are the constructs aware of us? Unknown. If they are dormant, they may not have detected our presence yet. Okonkwo weighed her options. They could retreat, report back to the Council, return with a larger force, or they could investigate further, learn everything possible about what they faced. Both choices carried risk. Deploy stealth reconnaissance drones, she ordered. I want detailed scans of those constructs and the debris fields, and send a quantum-encrypted message to Admiral Torres. Tell him what we found and that we are conducting close observation. If we do not report back within 24 hours, he is to assume hostile contact and implement defensive protocols. Captain, small drones launched from the Indomitable. Their stealth systems making them nearly invisible. They moved toward the mysterious constructs, cameras and sensors recording everything. The data they sent back was fascinating and terrifying in equal measure. The constructs were indeed organic, grown rather than built. Their surfaces were covered in what looked like scales or armor plates, but biological analysis suggested living tissue. They pulsed slowly, like breathing. Their power cores generating energy through processes Earth scientists could not immediately identify. And they were old. Carbon dating of exterior material suggested they were millions of years old, perhaps as old as the progenitor civilization itself. Captain, Kim said suddenly, one of the constructs just activated. Power signature increasing rapidly. It is scanning us. Okonkwo felt her blood turn cold. Evasive maneuvers. All ships prepare for combat, but do not fire unless fired upon. The construct, a massive sphere of biological technology, rotated toward them. Lights appeared across its surface, patterns that might have been communication or might have been weapon systems charging. The 3 human supercarriers accelerated away, but the construct followed, moving with impossible speed for something so large. It is hailing us. The communications officer reported, audio transmission, multiple languages. It is cycling through thousands of languages trying to find one we understand. Put it through. Static filled the bridge, then a voice, not organic, not artificial, but something between. It spoke in accented English, the pronunciation strange but understandable. Builders, you are builders. You carry the signature of the makers. Why do you return? The test is not yet complete. You must not interfere. Okonkwo exchanged glances with her officers. The makers. The progenitors. This construct thought humanity were progenitors returning. This is Captain Sarah Okonkwo of the human vessel Indomitable. We are not the makers. We are a younger species. We found remnants of the makers' technology and learned from it. We mean no harm. We came to understand the energy signatures our sensors detected. Silence. Then the voice spoke again, and this time it sounded confused, almost sad. Not the makers, but you carry their signature. You use their methods. The test continues, then. The test must always continue. The makers decreed it before they fell. We must test all who reach for the stars. We must ensure only the worthy survive. Test? Okonkwo asked. What test? The test of strength. The test of wisdom. The test of unity. The makers faced the devourers and fell because they stood alone, trusting only their own power. They created us to ensure their successors would be stronger, wiser, more unified. We test all civilizations that reach the threshold. Those who pass may survive. Those who fail are culled. Understanding dawned on Okonkwo with horrifying clarity. These constructs were not invaders. They were guardians, or rather judges. The progenitors had created them as a final failsafe, a way to ensure that any species that might face the devourers would be prepared. How many civilizations have you tested? She asked. 47 cycles. 47 attempts. All have failed. All fell to division, to pride, to fear. They fought us separately, species against species, and we defeated them all. But you carry the maker's signature. Perhaps you understand what they understood too late. Perhaps you have brought others with you. The ships that went missing, the debris we detected, those were civilizations that failed your test. They failed. They came to us with weapons and fear. They attacked without understanding. They divided among themselves even as we approached. We culled them as the makers instructed. It brings us no joy. We wish for success. We wish to see worthy successors emerge, but we must follow our purpose. Okonkwo's mind raced. The galaxy was about to face a test it did not know was coming, a test designed by the progenitors themselves. And if the council failed, If species fell to infighting and division, these constructs would destroy them all. "How long do we have?" she asked. "When does the test begin?" "We approach the threshold of the younger species space in 473 cycles of your star. When we arrive, the test begins. Prepare yourselves. Unite or fall. There is no third option." The construct went dormant again, its lights fading, its massive form becoming still. The other 16 constructs remained motionless, waiting with the patience of beings who had existed for millions of years. 17 months. Commander Park said quietly, 473 days. "That is how long we have." Okonkwo nodded slowly. 18 months had been Earth's estimate based on the construct's speed. Now they had confirmation and something far more important. They had understanding. The threat was not mindless aggression. It was a test, one that required unity and wisdom as much as military strength. "Take us back to Council space," Okonkwo commanded. "Maximum speed. Admiral Torres and Ambassador Chen need to know what we learned. And they need to know it now." The 3 supercarriers turned away from the dark zone, racing back towards civilization. Behind them, 17 ancient constructs waited in their dormant formation, counting down the cycles until they would fulfill their purpose. On Earth, when Okonkwo's report arrived, President Santos read it 3 times. Then she called an emergency meeting of every department head, every military commander, every person who could contribute to what came next. "We have 17 months, she told them. 17 months to unite a galaxy that has been fighting itself for millennia. 17 months to prove that we are worthy successors to the progenitors. 17 months to pass a test that 47 other civilizations failed." She looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. The progenitors fell because they stood alone. They were powerful beyond measure, but they faced the devourers divided and were destroyed. They created these constructs to ensure we would not make the same mistake. They want us to succeed. They built a test we can pass if we work together. "And if we fail?" someone asked. Santos met their eyes steadily. "Then we join 47 other extinct civilizations as a footnote in galactic history. But we will not fail, because we are humans. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived wars that nearly destroyed our own world. We survived being dismissed and mocked by the galaxy. We did not give up then, and we will not give up now." She stood, her voice gaining strength. "Send a message to every species in Council space. Tell them what Captain Okonkwo learned. Tell them about the test. Tell them that humanity offers its full strength, its technology, its resources to ensure we all pass together. And tell them that 17 months from now, when those constructs arrive, they will find not a divided collection of frightened species, but a unified galactic civilization ready to prove its worth." The room erupted with activity as people rushed to carry out their tasks. Santos stood alone for a moment, looking at the star map on the wall. 17 months. It seemed impossible, but humanity had accomplished the impossible before. Captain Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as it raced back toward Council space. She thought about the voice of the construct, ancient and patient. She thought about the test that awaited them all. And she thought about the words she would say when she addressed the council. They wanted to see what humanity could do, she had said 6 months ago, after destroying the Corinthian fleet. Now we all get to find out. Those words felt prophetic now. The galaxy would indeed find out what humanity could do, but more importantly, humanity would find out what the galaxy could do when it worked together, united by common purpose and the simple desire to survive. The test was coming. The ancient guardians were waiting. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the memory of the progenitors watched to see if their successors would succeed where they had failed. 17 months. The countdown had begun.